Thanksgiving Turkey Day, and so we're winging it. I'm sorry. Let's talk on Steve Brown, etc.
He's an old white guy, an author, broadcaster, and seminary professor who's sick of religion. And he's brought friends. Please welcome Steve Brown, etc.
Happy Thanksgiving. Welcome to Steve Brown, etc. And I'm Steve, the aforementioned old white guy. Matthew Porter is here, our executive producer. Some men look at a third helping of turkey and dressing and ask why. Matthew looks and asks why not.
I think that was JFK.
Yeah. And our producer Jinx is in his little glass booth. Jinx has been pondering a theological question. Do you say a blessing for Thanksgiving leftovers?
Ooh.
It has already been blessed. So why do you need to do it again? And then our other producer, Jeremy, is also in the little glass booth. Jeremy, Matthew wants me to ask you,
Oh, wow, this is good already.
what's the difference between a turkey and a musician?
Gosh, Steve, I don't know. What is the difference?
A turkey can feed a family of four, but I'm not going to ask that because it plays into the stereotype of the poor musician. That's a little something called self-control.
Wow.
Our one-man IT department, John Myers, is in the tech bunker. John is thankful the Pilgrims bravely sailed here from England so that one day we could have a special holiday with 3 NFL games. And Dr. George Bingham is the president of Key Life. And as a doctor, George reports there is no cure for meat sweats. And this is so bad. I can't believe I'm reading. I can't believe Matthew wrote this. And Cathy Wyatt is the soft feminine side of the program. Cathy's never been in armed combat, but she has been at the grocery store the day before Thanksgiving.
That's like before hurricanes.
That's true, or that. That's
wow,
true. If you have noticed, there is food sitting on this table. And as you know, I was a pastor for a lot of years, and in fact can get to heaven without grace because they don't even ask about Jesus. The angel said, "You did what?" And I said, "I'm a pastor for 30 years." And they say, "Oh, you poor child, you come on in." And I don't miss it. If it's raining, if it's dreary, if I'm depressed, I think it could be worse. I could still be a pastor. But I've just decided there is something I miss about being a pastor.
And what would that be?
Well, it's not the liturgy.
Oh, too bad.
It's not the elder meetings. It's not leadership. It's not offending 10% of the people in the congregation. You know what I miss? I miss a cover dish supper.
The fellowship,
And
right?
no, the food.
Yeah.
And we have had a cover dish supper of sorts because
thank
of
my Baptist upbringing for that.
Cathy and Jinx and George and maybe some others brought food, and we have been feasting on the food before we did this program. So if this is really bad, you know why. If it's really good, you also know why. It is Thanksgiving, and if you're listening to us or watching us on the variety of platforms where you will find us, Why? I mean, it's Thanksgiving. There's NFL football on. There's your family sitting in there wondering what happened to you.
That's definitely why.
And nothing of import's going to happen over this hour. So feel free to go back to the dinner table.
What?
Or turn on the television. Well, I mean, we don't even know what's going to happen. We just turned on the cameras and the microphones, and we said, let's see what happens.
Yeah, but everybody here now is high on sugar. So this could be the best program we've ever done.
You know, that's a good, could be. It could be. What makes you thankful, Matthew? I know Jesus, and I know family, and I know children, and all that.
Yeah.
But other than the things you have to say.
You know, I'm thankful for the extra pounds I put on this year because if a hurricane comes, I'm not going anywhere.
Hey,
and I can hold on to my little flyweight babies. They're not going anywhere. Playing the long game, guys.
The real anchor of the family.
That's right, literally.
And George, what about you?
Well, I have a long list. This year in particular, especially thankful for our expanding family. No, Ruth didn't have another baby. She shudders at the thought, but we added a new son when our daughter got married. So thankful for Emily and Nathan's, and also thankful that you did the wedding, and it was especially
because I
memorable.
did yours
41 years ago, plus 41 and a half years ago.
Listen, let's move on. Kathy, what are you?
Wait,
I don't want to talk about this anymore.
He knew we were about to get to something emotional, and he doesn't want to do that. I defer back to George being allowed to finish what he was saying.
Okay.
And this also being a memorable year, it was 45 years ago that I first walked into Key Biscayne Presbyterian Church and
got saved.
Yeah.
And healed. You were a cripple in those days.
That's right.
See? He cannot do it.
So you were just using me for fundraising.
Running for the feelings.
And this was the our 50th high school reunion, which I actually went to.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I haven't been to a reunion in 20 or 30 years.
I've never been to one.
Yeah.
I never will, except in heaven. I'll probably see some of them, but some of them I hope are not there. But go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say I was a little hesitant to go, and for those same reasons, but ended up going, and it was really nice to catch up with some people that I hadn't seen in 10, 20, or 50 years.
I bet.
And also, we got. Is it still my turn?
Yes, absolutely.
We, speaking of expanding family, we're going to be adding a new dog.
Okay.
To replace the one that had cancer and probably is on its, on the glide slope to doggy heaven. But it has been now a couple of months after taking this, having the surgery to remove a big tumor in her spleen, and she lasted much longer than we thought. So it's been nice to have her around.
George said the dog that died is Charlie, and they love Charlie a lot.
Hadn't died yet.
Hasn't died yet.
And well, we're moving ahead. The vet says it will have happened by now.
Well,
so
and you can see what her projection is.
And I said, if the new dog comes before the old dog dies, that's going to be a problem. And you said, yeah, but not for why you think. The old dog is a psychotic serial killer. And George told me how Charlie, their present dog, went and got a puppy, a stuffed dog.
Yeah.
Stole it from Ruth. She's had it since she was a little girl. Went out in the backyard, dug a hole, and buried that sucker.
And tried to do the same thing with another dog that we had that is in doggy heaven.
Wow.
But otherwise, she's very sweet and nice
Yeah.
Nice dog.
Yeah, we were at dinner over at your house last week, and that's a sweet dog.
Yeah.
When you told me those stories, I simply couldn't believe it. Kathy, I know your list is long and our time is short, but what are
48. You give me 47 seconds. Well, in my 44 seconds, I just want to make one comment. You know, I mean, I know I am not much of an animal person, and I know people that have animals and love them, obviously. But I have to tell you this because it's funny. I was on the phone the other day with George's wife, Ruth, and you could hear this just sweetness in her voice, and she's talking to Charlie and saying, "Do I need to help you, Charlie? What can I do for you, Charlie?" And through the phone, I said, "Don't believe her, Charlie. She's already looking for your replacement online."
She's been looking for months.
Oh, man. Well, that's a good start for the first segment of this broadcast. You know, dead dogs and
But there's weddings
and weddings.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
true.
and reunions.
And reunions, neither of which I'm big on. Hey, we're not gonna be kidding around the whole time. We're gonna be serious as we go along. We're so glad you're with us. This is our annual Thanksgiving program, and we're free to do and say and be whatever we want because we know that nobody's watching and nobody's listening in. And if you are, you probably need to get a life or go back to the table where the turkey is, not reside here where the turkeys are. We're going to take a break. We're coming back. Hey, we're so glad you're with us for this special Thanksgiving edition. Hey, after you emerge from your turkey coma, be sure and sign up for our free weekly email. It's called Key Life Connection, and it's not half bad. While you're thinking about it, go to keylife.org/subscribe. You know, we kid a lot about Thanksgiving, and I just
There
am
goes your
whopping.
aftershave.
Well, you got food all over the table. I don't have any room to do anything, but I manage because that's what I do. I manage well. As we said, this is our Thanksgiving edition, and we kid a lot about Thanksgiving, but that's at the very heart of our faith. And it's not just being thankful for turkeys and for reunions and for friends and for family and for Jesus. That goes without saying. But it means living a life of thanksgiving, being thankful for things that ordinarily you wouldn't be thankful for. A number of years ago, we were in an automobile accident, and this guy cut us off and hit us. And it was a pretty serious accident. And I was cussing and spitting, and I turned to my right, and my wife was praying. And I thought, geez. And I listened to what she prayed, and she said, Lord, I don't like this, but we're alive, and the person who hit us is going to feel really bad. And I don't understand, but I thank you for this accident. And I, of course, at that moment, repented, got on my knees, and said, I'm sorry, Jesus, I'm thankful too, sort of. And if you believe any of that, I got land to sell you in the Everglades. And it took me a while, but I've looked back on that and compared life to that accident. Man, this is not a pleasant time in which we live. There are things that are going on that are really bad. And the thing that makes it possible that we can get through it is the recognition that there's a God and that the God created all of this, and that there's no perspiration on his upper lip, and he knows exactly what he's doing. And so when Paul says, give thanks for all things, and he does, and people always point out, he said, give thanks in all things. Well, he said that too, but he said both because he understood there's a God who is the source of every gift, even when it doesn't feel like a gift in your life. I think all of us, and if we go around the table and go into the control room and the guys in there, and we ask about what are you thankful for that you weren't thankful for, we would be surprised at the answers that we would get when we look back over our lives. There are a list of things that I hated so much that I wish had gone a different direction. The times when I failed publicly and it was embarrassing. The sins that I hid quite successfully in order to keep my job. The times when I didn't get what I wanted, when my car was in an accident. I look back over the time that I wasn't called to a mega church where I thought that I would be called and would make a lot more money and be a part of the country club. All of those things were things for which I'm not thankful. But as an old guy, when I look back, I see some of those as the most important moments in my life. And very hesitantly, I can say in my prayer time, God, I hated it, and I wasn't altogether happy with you about it. But you were there, and you got me through it. And now that I can see it in perspective, I kind of have a feel of what you were doing. You have things like that, Matthew?
Yeah, it's funny. We tell our babies, there's so many things that you want and you don't get it at the time you want it.
Yeah.
And what I have learned, the most difficult way, and passed on to them is the secret of a blessing is in the timing. It's not just the thing itself. It's when it shows up. There's times when if you got what you want when you wanted it, it would be a curse. It would not be good for you. As you're talking, though, I'm realizing the reverse is also true. There's things that are just genuinely horrible, but if you give it enough time, you will look back and see a bunch of good things that came from it. When our kids, my mother-in-law and father-in-law passed away, just within 20 months of each other, you're trying to walk the family through all the grief but not diminish it, right? Not say, no, don't be sad. But I said, there are things that you will learn through this, and years down the line, you will look back and go, I learned these things because I experienced them, and I would not have learned them if I had not experienced them through this tragic thing happening. And improbable as it sounds, in the midst of that sadness, there will be blessings that come out of that you would maybe not otherwise have had that thing not happened.
That's true.
All of this brings up some really hard questions about God and how he operates, but I think those are great questions to ask.
Yeah, they really are. And we're not trying to ignore the reality of evil or sadness or the pain of life because it's really bad. George, you've been there in spades, and some of the times I was standing there watching you go through it. It's been really hard. And I don't think you can look back and say, well, yay, God, that was wonderful, because it wasn't.
Yeah.
But you can see God's hand in your life in molding you in a very special way. And when we get home, and, the one who created it all is around and we can ask questions, maybe we'll understand.
Yeah. Yeah, and loss of a son
That's
a long
hard.
time ago. Yeah.
That's really hard.
And loss of a job is not nearly as consequential, but pretty significant.
If you're a guy, it hurts, man.
Yeah,
That's how you define
sure
yourself.
But those points are the things that you can learn that God gets you through it, number one. And then maybe that's why he helps you get other people through those kind of things
And that's
as well.
so true. It's maybe the basis of good and profound fellowship is right at that point. I remember when Matthew died, George's son, we were walking outside around the hospital, and George said to me, "Steve, a lot of people have said that people will come to know Christ because of this." And then you were very quiet and said, "Frankly, I would rather they go to hell." That was honest and appreciated by God. Hey, don't go anywhere. We're coming back. Hey, we're so glad you're with us, and happy Thanksgiving. We're hanging out with us. You can also hang out with us on our YouTube channel and see all the delicious food we're enjoying today. Just go to youtube.com, Key Life Network, and don't forget to click subscribe while you're there. You get 3
Can
free
you hear
cents.
Jeremy and Jinx's forks in there on their plates?
Very professional. Hey, speaking of all this delicious food, these Key Life forks certainly adequate and
There
awesome.
we go.
But if you are looking to up your game, may I suggest adding this to your lineup? This is my Thanksgiving fork. So obviously you can see its utility, and we'll drop a link. Make sure if anybody needs this. But if you want to get a little extra,
this on your
It looks
Etsy
like
site?
it's got especially sharp tines on it.
yes,
For
it does.
And to
thank
get
you for
somebody
knowing.
else's hand if they happen to get
That's
in your way.
correct. That's correct. So,
For those of you who are listening on radio,
I
and
just gotta go to YouTube.
there are 250 places where you could do that, you have no idea what that was about. Matthew Porter took a fork out of his pocket, held the ends of that fork, one in one hand and one in the other, and he pulled, and the fork turned into a 3-foot-long fork.
yes.
Telescopic.
And he said you can get a lot more food that way
Yeah.
if you have one of those.
If you made it spring-loaded and sharpened the tines, you could really get that last piece.
I like that.
Piece of turkey.
It's illegal as long as you're straddling a state
Or
line.
somebody's finger who was reaching for the same thing.
They'll learn.
That there's an old sermon illustration about long forks.
Yes.
That in hell they have long forks and they can't get the food from the long forks to their mouth, so they starved to death. But in heaven, they feed each other with the long forks. It wasn't a very good sermon illustration.
I was
when
just going to
used
say
it
that was
either.
not one of your better ones. In fact, that was so bad I think I blocked it out. I don't think I ever heard that one.
Let's attribute that
Right
to
out of
somebody
the
we don't like.
Kathy, do you think of things in your life that were not things for which you were thankful, but later on?
I do. Steve Brown, did you hear Jinx? Did you hear that?
Pay no attention.
Jinx whispered, Steve Brown. Funny that you were going to say that, because in 1976 I had signed a contract to continue teaching school, and just didn't really feel comfortable about it, and got offered a job, applied for, which is still a mystery to this day. Applied for a job and got it for a position that I remember looking my mother square in the eyes and saying, I will never sit behind a desk in front of a typewriter. I will never, ever, ever do that. And that was 47 years ago. And that job changed my life. Not just because
Not for the
of
better, but it changed your life.
changed my life. Boy, oh boy, did it changed my life.
And typewriters on the plus side have been gone for 25
Yeah,
of those
so
years.
I really turned out to be telling the truth, and I didn't know it. But I mean, seriously, I mean, it's certainly has been a great job, but obviously, individuals involved, most specifically, to my left, changed my life.
Well, and that's vice versa. I think the things that you ever find out that sometimes the people that you disliked the most when you first met them became the people that you trusted the most and
Is
that
that
you
what
ended
you're
up liking
Is
more.
that
No.
what you're saying about me?
No, I was
No,
not
he was
making
looking at
no.
me.
I was not making.
Matthew, were you
Where are you
feeling a
going with
little?
this, counselor?
Yeah, were you
I'll
feeling
allow
a little concerned there?
But I have found that to be true. You know, when you come as a pastor to a church, everybody thinks you're wonderful, and the people who think you're the most wonderful will end up making an obscene gesture and making your life miserable. And those who didn't even vote for you often turn out to be the people who are your closest friends. It's funny the way God works that sort of thing. And you could almost make that into a metaphor of life and the things for which we're thankful.
I can't handle that kind of rejection, and that's why I didn't go into the ministry. I went into show business.
Yeah, right.
And that's worked well,
It's
hasn't it?
gone great. It's gone great.
The same thing.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah. But it is, it's a good thing. Somebody in the control room was raising their hand. Say something.
Come on up in here,
They
Jim.
probably
Oh,
just
They
want
just
Jeremy,
wanted the
Jeremy,
more
you
mac
can
and
add
Okay,
cheese.
to
yeah,
this.
we'll pass
Yeah,
the
That's right. Somebody passed me the
pecan
ham.
pie.
So if I could jump in here on that kind of subject briefly. Yes,
Tell you what,
tell me
why
what.
don't you wait
I wait?
until after the break, and we'll have some more ham and pecan pie and cookies and
No milk.
no milk and cupcakes and other things.
Gingerbread.
And gingerbread.
true.
Then, having done that and rested up, we'll come back and prepare ourselves for Jeremy's comments. No, they're going to be profound and wise. And if you miss it, your friends will all say, "You missed Jeremy's comment?"
No, they won't.
Hey, we're so glad that you're taking a part of your Thanksgiving day to be with us. I don't know why you're doing it. You should be at your dinner table, hanging out with family and friends. But listen,
We're friends.
we're friends, and we're glad that you're hanging out with us. We have a new video playlist. Is that right, Matthew? What's that?
So, we sat around and we're thinking of what other new cool stuff can we do for everybody? And we're like, well, we thought of some ideas, but doing something new seems like a lot of work. So we thought, well, what can we get out of the stuff we're already doing? So that led to the Steve Brown, Etc. Insider. So these are the conversations that happen off air. So in between,
Wait.
Recording those?
You guys
I'm
were
recording those?
yeah,
Oh,
it's called
no.
job security, Steve. So
Suitable for blackmail or extortion.
exactly. So sometimes we have some really cool, not all the time, but sometimes some really great exchanges with guests that don't ever weave their way into the actual show. So you're like, we want to share that stuff. So the way you do it is just sign up for our Key Life Connection email. And when we have new content that comes up on Steve Brown, Etc. Insider, there will be a link in the email. And as it happens, it's free. So
that is
keylife.org/subscribe.
That's cool.
Man.
So if you'd like to be a Key Life insider, you now know how to do that.
And here's some really embarrassing stuff that we say.
Some of us are going to have to clean up our act a little bit.
I am. I'm going to be a lot more spiritual when the mic. I thought the microphones were turned off, and they weren't.
You know, bearing false witness is
It's kind of scary. Yeah, right. Y'all, we're spending time on Thanksgiving just sitting around, enjoying our covered dish supper and talking about Thanksgiving. At the very heart of the Christian faith is a recognition that there's a God and that God knows what he's doing and that you can be thankful for things for which you would not ordinarily be thankful. Job said, and everybody uses his as an example, though he slay me, I would still trust him. And that includes, I'll be thankful. Now, that's the last good thing that Job said. After that, it went down the tube. So don't pick him as your example and your heroine of goodness and thankfulness. But that statement was heavy. And that's the way we live when it hurts. Pause for a moment. Tell God you don't like it. Don't be dishonest. Evil is evil. Dark is dark. And pain is pain. But in the quietness of that, affirm that he's in charge. You don't get a vote. And that you're going to, by faith, thank him for it. Until that becomes a habit to you. And you're thanking him for everything that happens in your life. I feel like I'm preaching sermons. Oh, I know what we're going to do.
We're going to listen to Jeremy.
Jeremy had some profound thoughts to share with us. Let me get a notepad so I can take notes here.
So, yeah. I
vote for a bigger control room.
Yeah. Can I sit on your lap?
Yes,
Have you been a good boy this year?
What would you like for Christmas?
we're pretty close.
I mean, so first of all, Matthew Porter does a good job of putting together a list of, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Here's 6 or 7 things. Throw these balls around. And Steve, I thank you for coming up with easily the best single one. It's like super deep and super real for all of us. So here's mine. Yay. A thing that I am thankful for now that in the moment of it, I was very, very not thankful for. There was a time I served as a worship leader at a church that shall not be named.
But it was
by me. Jinx has threatened to name names, but anyways, I won't name any names. But anyways, I was doing my job there. The process of them letting me go, let's say, was bad. And I was really mad about it and really sad about it and went through a lot of soul searching and gut wrenching and do I even want to serve in the ministry ever again and blah, blah, blah. I'm so important and whatever. And the truth of it is, I wouldn't be sitting here in this room with you people if it wasn't for any of that. That church led me to Key Life. Wow. And I am thrilled to be here, and I thank God every day for Key Life, and thus have to thank God for that horrible experience that I went through.
That is such a good illustration. And it worked. All of us have those kinds of things. That was a hard time for Jeremy. And I remember I was angry with him. But listen, that's a gift to us. As you become a part of this family, that bad thing that happened to you was a good thing to happen to all of us.
Absolutely. It was a blessing. And if it came to it, I would be willing for you to go through all of that again. For you to,
Thank you, man.
I would make that sacrifice.
That's a big sacrifice.
Just think where God would put you after that.
No, just imagine.
You know, we on our YouTube community page, we asked some of the subscribers what they were thankful for. I have a couple of them here if you want. And we did not ask leading questions. We just asked what you're thankful for, like pecan pie or something. But Cathy, with a K, not with a C, said, I am thankful for Key Life Network and you, Steve Brown, for teaching God's word to America and beyond stating always that God is not mad at you. You think about that.
Yeah, that's a nice thing.
And then somebody who had like a combination of numbers and letters, we'll just say it's anonymous.
You said this wasn't going to be printed.
They said, I am thankful for the love of Jesus and what's left of my sanity, which is nice. And then Mimi
That's
had
That's a funny statement.
yeah. And then Mimi had a very sweet and lengthy story, but she talks also about how she was introduced to Key Life back when in Miami days.
Yeah.
And then God brought her back around to connect with us, and very sweet story. Said, thank you, Mimi, for sharing that.
Oh, that is nice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am thankful for this ministry, and almost always, George and I were talking about it the other day, almost none of this has been planned. We have violated everything that leadership people say you ought to do. You ought to have goals. You ought to, if you don't shoot, if you don't have a goal, you'll never hit anything, and all of that. But it's been kind of funny how it almost makes you believe in God. But the people who have been brought here have been exactly the right people at exactly the right time. The times when we thought God was finally through with us and it was go down the tube, the right gifts came in at the right time, so we not only survived, we live on the edge. And this is a ministry that, in fact, is overseen by a God. And now that I think about it, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the way that God has, despite us and our best laid plans, overseen this ministry of telling God's people that he's not angry at them. And it started because I thought he was. And when I found out that he wasn't, I thought, I'm a preacher. I probably ought to tell other people what I've discovered. And I did, and they were glad too. But it is hard work, so we're going to have some more that's covered this supper, rest up, and then we'll come back. Hey, thanks for joining us for this Thanksgiving edition. We're glad you've been with us on this Thanksgiving today. After you emerge from the turkey coma, be sure to sign up for our free weekly email. It's called Key Life Connection, and it's not half bad. While you're thinking about it, go to keylife.org/subscribe. This has been a good program. Good eats, good friends.
You're not supposed to sound surprised.
Well, I was sitting in my study thinking, Lord, do I have to do this? Because you never know. It gets out of control. You're a weird bunch, and you're hard. It's like lassoing and baptizing cats. It's just hard to do. But this bunch is a fun bunch to be around, and we've had a good time just sitting around and eating and talking about being thankful. I'm thankful for the guest that's going to be on next week. I have no idea.
Just going to say,
That was a
just
A
gonna
plus
say,
segue.
he
Any
has
guest,
no
any
idea
guest,
who's going to be
please.
here next week.
I'm sending that.
But listen, I'm thankful for you, Cathy, and for your expertise in getting guests. And so I trust that whoever will be here next week will be stellar.
I'm submitting that to the Segway of the Year award. The Seggies.
It
We're going to
has
get you a Seggy for that one.
absolutely no. Well, I was actually gonna, poll the troops and say, should I tell him? He did such a great segue, and then I would say, gee, I have no idea, but I actually do.
Okay,
I
who's
do.
going to be on
Next week? Mark Knoll who actually we already talked to, and his new book is called C.S. Lewis in America, and it was a really, really. I mean, how can you go wrong with C.S. Lewis? I mean, seriously, is there anybody out there that's not familiar with C.S. Lewis? But this was really a
wonderful
very, very
hour. It really
a lot of
was.
new. I thought a lot of new information, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And I'm sure you'll probably want to buy the book because it's really, really good.
Yeah, it really was. And he's a tremendous scholar. He taught at Wheaton and Notre Dame at the same time.
At the same time, yeah. Who does
really,
that?
No, not very many. And he's a good man, and his title put the dates with it, and it was about as exciting as Chicken Feet. And, I told him, you could do better on title, but... It was a great conversation. Don't not come because of anything.
Some of your
but
book titles,
I said,
I
know. That's because the publisher won't let me title it.
Well, he may have had the same problem.
Guys,
Should
we're
it
out
be
of here.
Turkey feet?
Listen, I got to say this. Shut up.
I got
We're
stuck
outta
on
here.
baptizing cats.
Come back next week, same time, same place. Between now and then, don't do anything we wouldn't, and that gives you a wide, wide berth.
And we are wider and wider.
I am calling your wife.